Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Arena Frontier here on Gateway Sports. We're getting close to the tail end of the arena season here. Basically, we got about a month and a week, basically, until the end of the 2026 arena season. Then we're going to go into offseason here soon. Probably be a little bit of hiatus there. But it's kind of interesting here that we're getting close to the playoffs here. The AF1 only has one regular season before the playoffs kick off for them. The Indoor Football League has 2 more weeks before the playoffs, along with the Arena League and the International Arena League also as well. The Arena Football one also announced a breaking news thing on AF1 Fan Zone that I'm going to announce here once we get to the AF1. And then, besides that, a lot of confusion within the Arena Football one before the week happened and also during, and then yeah, I'm gonna get that to there in a moment. Then the AAL finished their season for this year. They announced a new team. And let's get to, I guess we'll start with the Indoor Football League here. There was an announcement with the new team, but they were going to announce the new name and stuff. They actually delayed that and said that they were going to actually do it on August 26th. So it's fine to get it right there, so that's good. And they announced it on the Athens IFL X page from what I saw, so that's good, and hopefully it's the Bullfrogs. All right, let's get down to it for Week 18 of the Indoor Football League. First game, Orlando Pirates versus San Antonio Gunslingers. This should not have been this close. But Orlando kicked it at the last minute with 1 point, and Orlando beat the San Antonio Gunslingers 55-54. Like I said, it shouldn't be this close here. The San Antonio Gunslingers ain't going to the playoffs, so Orlando needed this for basically playoff seeding. So good for it to happen here. Just that I guess San Antonio was just trying to play and get ready to have a better 2027 season. Nothing wrong with that, but Orlando, you need to get your act together, or else you're going to fall flat within the playoffs here. So, like I said, it first started, San Antonio had the momentum, then it switched to the second, and then it just went back and forth and more defensive game within the second half when it came to that. So, uh, even though it was a good game, it's still eh. So I'm still going to see how it goes here. But like I said, the Orlando Pirates beat the San Antonio Gunslingers 55-54. Uh, Orlando Corey Paxton Durant 20 out of 26, 239 yards, 5 TDs, 2 interceptions, 2 rushing attempts for 36 yards, and 3 TDs. Running back Puka Williams, 9 attempts, 95 yards rushing, a touchdown, 8 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown, and 2 kick returns for 61 yards. Wide receiver Naquan Murray, 6 receptions, 76 yards, 3 TDs, 1 attempt, and 3 yards. Wide receiver Thomas Owens, 3 receptions, 18 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive front Leon O'Neal, 5 tackles and 1 forced fumble. San Antonio quarterback Joaquin Calzo, 20 out of 34, 251 yards, 6 TDs, 7 attempts, 14 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Dion Cook, 6 receptions, 89 yards, and 3 TDs. Wide receiver Dion McShane, receptions, 81 yards, and 3 TDs, and 1 rushing attempt for a yard. Wide receiver Jaleo Billingsley, 2 receptions, 31. I'm sorry. 2 receptions, 31 yards, 2 attempts, 4 yards, and a rushing TD, and best defensive forward for the Gunslingers. Larry Brooks, the third, 88 tackles, 5 assists, and an INT. Next one was a game that was expected, as I said last week. The Green Bay Blizzard stormed over the Iowa Barnstormers. This was like the top of the tier of a team, while the Iowa Barnstormers are at the very bottom. So this was predictable and good to see. They were able to shut them out in the fourth quarter, just let them score at least once every quarter, and Green Bay Blizzard was just being Green Bay Blizzard. So, and Green Bay beat them 65-21. The thing is that now after this victory, Green Bay Blizzard has outright got the number 1 seed in the Eastern Division and has home field advantage throughout the playoffs until the championship that's played in Tucson. So So it's pretty good right there. And like I said, it was predictable. The Green Bay Blizzards steamrolled the Iowa Barnstormers. And like I said, Iowa just needs to have a total reboot within the front office, the coaching, players, everything. All right. Green Bay Blizzard quarterback Liam Thompson, 7 out of 10, 120 yards, 2 TDs, 6 attempts for 30 yards and a touchdown. Quarterback Cole Stenstrom, 6 attempts, 9 yards, 49 yards, 1 attempt for 9 yards and a TD. Running back Demelin Brown, 11 attempts, 44 yards and 2 TDs, 3 receptions for 19 yards. Wide receiver Drayson Hudson, 4 receptions, 60 yards and a TD. Wide receiver Jack Sturter, 3 receptions, 39 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Trevon Alexander, 2 receptions, 30 yards, an attempt, 2 yards and a TD. Best another thing, DB on a kickoff for special teams, Fred Flavors, 2 returned for 50 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performance for the Barnstormers, Andre White Jr., 5 tackles, 4 assists, and a sack. Next game was, Tulsa Oilers versus Jacksonville Sharks. This once again was a game for playoff seeding within the East, and Tulsa got the victory over the more higher seeded Sharks, and Tulsa needed this. They needed this badly, and they were able to. They actually had the momentum first within the first half, and then the Jacksonville Sharks couldn't catch up, and Tulsa beat them 58-44. Let me know. No, 58-48. Sorry. So I'm surprised, even though Jacksonville, they still have the number 2 seed, but Tulsa, this helps them keep their playoffs hopes alive in the bottom part here. So, Jacksonville, you let this one go. Yes, you did. And oh, computer, why do you do that to me? So, need to have that technology. So, apparently, need to be more active, or else they'll just turn off here. So we'll read this a little bit more, then we'll go by standings, and hopefully by then my computer will wake up off of sleep mode here. So all right. So like I said, Tulsa beat the Jacksonville Sharks 58-49. Jacksonville quarterback Sammy Edwards, 20 out of 28, 225 yards, 5 TDs, 1 rushing attempt for -4 yards. Running back Jimmy Robinson Jr., 7 attempts, 5 yards and a TD. And then also 9 receptions for 72 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Wide receiver Red Douglas, 2 receptions, 41 yards, a TD, 2 returns for 44 yards. Best defensive performance for the Sharks, Michael Moore, 9 tackles. Tulsa quarterback TJ Edwards, the second, 18 out of 23, 182 yards, 6 TDs, 8 rushing attempts for 40 yards and a rushing TD. Running back Caleb Ramser, 15 attempts, 94 yards and a touchdown, 6 receptions, 53 yards. Wide receiver Kentron Jackson Jr., 5 receptions, 57 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Jamarick Smith Jr., 4 receptions, 46 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver TJ Davis, 3 receptions, 27 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance, Tariq Bracer, 5 tackles and an assist. One moment here. It's asking for. All right. Got that going. Then the next game, which was Fisher Freight's against Quad City Steamrollers. The Steamrollers kind of needed to win this game in order to stay in the playoff hunt, and unfortunately, Fisher Freight in a close game was able to just mostly right starting from the second quarter, because the Steamrollers actually had the advantage in the first quarter. Fisher Freight only was able to get a safety, but well, no. It was a deuce. I'm sorry, a deuce, not a safety. And Quad City got a touchdown, but then after that, it just flipped. The Fisher Freight had the momentum going from the second to the fourth quarter, beating the Steamwheelers 49-35, hurting the chances more for Quad City to make it to the playoffs, and only there being 2 more weeks within the season. Fisher Freight quarterback Felix Harper, 6 out of 11, 84 yards, 2 TDs. 13 rush attempts for 59 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Isaiah Coulter, 1 reception, 28 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver C.J. Wyndham, 2 receptions, 16 yards and a touchdown. Running back Josiah King, excuse me, 12 attempts, 25 yards, 2 kickoff returns, 6 yards and a return touchdown. Best defense performer Leon Smalls, 2 tackles and 1 forced fumble. Quad City to Quan Neal, 16 of 23, 170 yards, 3 TDs, an interception, 9 rushing attempts for 90 yards and a touchdown. Uh, Also, quarterback Jordan Versey was 1 of 2 for 11 yards, 2 attempts, 6 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Coron Williams, 3 receptions, 32 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Gerard Ware, 1 reception, 3 yards and a touchdown. And best defensive performance, Keyshawn Moore, 5 tackles, 1 assist, and a forced fumble. Okay. Next one, we had the battle in Arizona with Arizona Rattlers and the Tuscan Sugar Skulls. Unfortunately, I do not have stats for this game because for some odd reason, there was some weird glitch for this game and I could not get stats. But the Arizona Rattlers did beat the Tuscan Sugar Skulls in the battle in Arizona 41-25. This was a game more just for Arizona to get more so they have better playoff seeding. Tuscan Sugar Skulls, they're doing a little bit better, but for being 41-25, I expected it to be a little bit more wider of victory margin for the Rattlers, but it did not. But Tuscan Sugar Skulls of course, out of the another game that, but Tuscan, like, they're doing better, so it's good for them. But the other Arizona team that's playing, because you had the game, basically the worst 2 teams, North Arizona Wranglers and the New Mexico Chupacabras, and the Northern Arizona Wranglers proved that they were a lot better and should not match their victory there. And of course, this also shows how bad the New Mexico Chupacabras is, which apparently has a lot of people mad at them on the social media side. So they need to get that fixed. Yeah, New Mexico, like, they were competitive in the first quarter and the second, but then second half it was just like boom, 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 boom. So yeah, and North Arizona is showing that they're a lot better, and out of the between them and Tucson, Northern Arizona is a lot better, in my opinion. But like I said, the Wranglers beat the New Mexico Chupacabras 71-33. Northern New Mexico quarterback Gloria Serrano, 7 out of 12, 80 yards, a touchdown, and INT. Running back James White, 17 attempts, 68 yards, 3 TDs, 1 reception for 4 yards. That's their offensive power there, just James White right now. Wide receiver Arthur Jackson, 2 receptions, 27 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performer Cam Bright, 2 tackles and 2 sacks. Northern Arizona quarterback Anthony Garrett, 15-19, 226 yards, 4 TDs, 5 attempts for 5 yards and a touchdown. Running back Kobe Smith, 2 attempts, 20 yards and a touchdown. Running back Nolan Sorrell, 7 attempts, 9 yards, 2 TDs, 2 receptions for 32 yards. Wide receiver Karan Ashley, 9 receptions, 103 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Warren Norman III, 1 reception, 29 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive form Taiwan Griffin, 2 tackles, 3 interceptions, and had 2 of them returned for a touchdown. And then another one with no stats for some reason, but thankfully I saw this game in its entirety. The San Diego Strike Force and the Vegas Nighthawks, which was a rematch from last week, and this was actually in San Diego, but this one it was in Vegas, and this was for basic for seeding for the top 2 in, and they're still close, so it's still not definite. But San Diego Strike Force even said after the game, the quarterback and head coach, they wanted to win this so they don't have to go back to Vegas in the playoffs and play at home. And it was a good game going back and forth, but San Diego Strike Force was able to just inch out and beat the defending champion 52-38. And right now, there's a high probability this will probably be the Western Conference final in order to play for the AFL Championship at Tucson. So yeah, very good game, and so far so good for the IFL here on this week for only 2 more weeks of regular season play. Let's go. Like I said, the standings here as of right now in the Eastern. Like I said, for our Barnstormers is eliminated. The only team that's eliminated because Quad City is somehow still in it. Fisher at 5-9. It's kind of weird how they are, but maybe there's some point where I think honestly they should be eliminated because Fisher Freight's 8-7. Then Tulsa Oilers are 9-5 and got the fourth seed. Orlando Pirates got the our next one up at 9-6. Jacksonville Sharks, they're already in the playoffs, and Clint's already at 9-5. And then Green Bay, they clinch home field advantage at 13-2. So they're done here. Now the Western Conference. Uh and actually, because San Diego, I forgot about this, with the Rattlers win and the Vegas loss, right now, the seeding for the top three right now, San Diego Strike Force is number one at 11-3. Arizona Rattlers is number two at 10-5. And then Vegas Knights are somehow three at 11-4. So that's kind of interesting. And then it's just this, I don't know. This might need to be fixed because New Mexico, of course, is out, and also Northern Arizona Wranglers. But the other thing is here is right now they have the San Antonio Gunslingers above Tuscan, and San Antonio's 4-10, while Tuscan's 6-8. So that needs to get fixed because that's incorrect. Uh, so I don't know how that's there. So, huh. Yeah, IFL, you need to fix that, and also your glitchy scores deal that needs to get fixed. So, yeah. So that does it for the IFL, and also their games are going to be shrinking a little bit too the last 2 weeks as well, not as much as this week. So, though I think this weekend, if it's either this one, I have to double check because there's going to be some games that are going to be played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's no more Monday games as of right now. So I guess we will go now to the AF1 here. And first game, of course, is going to be starting off with some confusion here. But the first off is that um, the Vice game of the week actually was, and this was announced on the AF1 X page, and that it was going to be an already played game from last week. While the game that I watched, which was the Mania game between the two brothers, and that was an excellent game. And it was kind of weird. It was on YouTube, but it had the Vice logo on the bottom right. And even on announcement said this game's going to be rebroadcasted a week later. So it's like, okay, that was odd and confusing. But the more confusing one here is with because it was Michigan Arsenal against the Oceanside Bombers. But then when the game started, I was like, huh, what's going on here? Because the colors of the Bombers were a darker blue. And then for some reason, I kept parsing for the Oceanside Stealth. I'm like, wait a minute. Did they just do a rebrand here? And then there was asking for more for clarification, but then that came out yesterday, and kind of surprising here. For me at least, the Oceanside Arena Football enters a new era, which their era just started this year. Uh, Arena Football and thrilled to announce a dynamic new chapter for Arena Football at Oceanside. Effective immediately, the member team formerly known as the Oceanside Bombers will rebrand and take the field as the Oceanside Stealth. This bold on a coincidentally with the official acquisition of the team by local business leader Alberto Jean and Margaret Alberto and Margaret Jean, who are committed to elevating the franchise to unprecedented heights within the AF1. So the team got sold during the season, during play, and they rebranded it like that? What the hell? This is the first time I've seen something like this in a while. The transition to the Oceanside Stealth represents far more than just a name change. It signals a total revitalization of the organization's commitment to its fans, its players, and the surrounding community. Once again, they just started this year. Under the stewardship of Alberto and Margaret Jean, the franchise executed a comprehensive strategy roadmap designed to take Oceanside Arena football to the next level. The rebranding from Oceanside Bombers to the Oceanside Stealths defines the transition from old to new ownership, which, once again, they just started this year. Um, and implementation of a new organizational culture. Not much since they, once again, just started. We are dedicated to repairing and fostering of the relationships in the city of Oceanside and establish recommitment to our community. What the heck happened? We are proud to be the professional team representing the city of Oceanside, said Alberto Jean. The rebranded aligns perfectly with the explosive momentum currently being seen across Arena Football 1. We'll get to that. The Stealth will debut an aggressive new visual identity complete with updated team colors, logos, and state-of-art uniforms that reflect the speed and hot-take energy of a modern arena football. And it went from a bomber plane and now the Oceanside Stealth, it's more of a wave. So, and their colors is more of a darker blue. So, fans can expect a immediate elevation in game day activations, digital community engagement, and strategic partnership as the Genies implement their vision of the future. The organization is already working closely with the AF1 League execs to ensure seamless transition and spectacular unveiling of the new brand to the public. Season ticket holders will receive exclusive updates in the coming weeks regarding the brand rollout, merchandise drops, and upcoming community meet and greet events with the new ownership group. That is, like I said, it's weird, and you do the announcement after because everyone's like, "Who the heck is the Stealth?" And someone I had on before, Luke Miller, even comments like, "Who's the Oceanside Stealth?" Because this was just weird. But they came out and they strangely did pretty well against the Michigan Arsenal, but still lost. But it was a close game, 86-74. But it's like, what the heck's going on here? That it just, I don't know. There's some other stuff with the Arena Football one here. And then next, it was the Cocamania Bowl with the two brothers going next to each other. Of course, this probably will be a matchup that will probably be played in the playoffs, maybe even the championship. Um, Good game back and forth between the two brothers. And it was just, like I said, back and forth. Though Nashville first had the momentum first, and then Albany was just trying to come back, and they were able to shut out the Cats in the third quarter, and Albany would seem like they were just coming back, coming back. But then Nashville finally got their act together in the fourth quarter, and then Nashville beat them in the final minutes, 57-54. And very good game. Like I said, it's still kind of interesting that this game was being recorded for a future Vice network broadcast. So I don't know. It's that is just weird and stuff there. So very good game, and I recommend watching it on YouTube. But it's good that it's going to be on Vice, but as a replay is odd. So I digress there. Tyler Coca for Nashville, 22 out of 32, 232 yards, 6 TDs, and an interception. Let me get that. Linebacker, fullback Desmond Maxwell, 5 attempts, 7 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jordan Gandy, 7 receptions, 44 yards, and 3 TDs. Wide receiver Charles LaFord, 5 receptions, 64 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver BK Smith Jr., 4 receptions, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Best on the defensive side, defensive back Omari Alexander, 8 tackles and 1 interception. Joshua Coca for Albany, 21 out of 41, 311 yards, 6 TDs, 1 interception, 20 attempts for 12 yards. Fullback offensive lineman Joshua Zacher, 3 attempts, 1 yard, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Tyrus Chambers, 10 receptions, 114 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Agari Hall, 5 receptions, 89 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Isaiah Scott, 4 receptions, 33 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive performance, defensive back Travion Mosby, 3 tackles and an interception. Very good game, like I said. Go and watch the replay on YouTube. Next game, the Washington Wolfpack against the Minnesota Monsters. Very good game too, and like I said, Washington Wolfpack is my most improved team of 2026. And the Monsters getting a lot of good praise, especially on the website, and a lot of people, heck, even Jeremiah Spicer on his Facebook profile commended that he likes what the Minnesota Monsters ownership is doing. So that's great and all, and hopefully good as well, and also get rid of that dang lawsuit with the Arena League. Hopefully that'll end probably here and probably next year. Like I said, Minnesota Monsters, it helps them with the playoffs here. 56-42 over the Washington Wolfpack. Washington quarterback Andrew McBride, 15 out of 34, 163 yards, 5 TDs, an interception, 2 attempts, 1 yard, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Brandon Labana, 3 receptions, 6 yards, and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Kier Greer, 1 reception, 31 yards, and a touchdown. Then also fullback Andre Hendricks, 2 receptions, 22 yards, and a touchdown, and 1 rushing tip for 10. Wide receiver Tyler Stevens, 4 receptions, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive forward, defensive back Eugene Ford, 5 tackles, 1 attack, 1 interception. Minnesota quarterback Javante Johnson, 14 out of 37, 167 yards, 4 TDs, and interception. Defensive line and fullback Claude Davis, 8 rushing attempts for 60 yards and 3 TDs. Wide receiver Javari Flowers, 6 receptions, 99 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Shiloh Falligan, 4 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive performance, linebacker Dorian Best, 3 tackles and an attack. Final game of Arena Football 1, and here comes more problems here. Yeah, the Kentucky on YouTube. He actually had a former Kentucky Barrows player on. It's either TJ or TO was a lineman on there, and he got on there, and I recommend seeing that. And they haven't been paid after like after 5 or 6 games, if I recall correctly, from the podcast. And yeah, and how it works, the league pays them the minimum first of $400 first on Thursday, then Friday, then the addendum, I guess, gets paid up from the team. And after a while, they weren't getting paid, and some of the coaches weren't either. And I told you last week some players were released and suspended. And now it seems like the Kentucky Barrels, even if they're seated, apparently they can't even pay. Trying to confirm right now, it seems like the arena can't even get paid, and then they can't even host a playoff game. So that's just freaking odd and more confusing to the arena for one with some problems and more problems. And ever since the playing with replaced players, the Kentucky Barrels had lost 2 straight because once again, it's not the team that played earlier this year. And heck, even on Facebook, the owner of the Odessa Drillers posted that their players were suing up as the Kentucky Barrels. It's like, oh, this is just not it, man. Not it at all. And it's like, but at least this version of Kentucky Barrels was a little bit better, but the Beaumont Renegades, and they needed the victory for this, beat the Kentucky Barrels 50-20. Oh, dear Lord. The Barrels quarterback Dominic Hattie, 11-21, 120 yards, 3 TDs, an interception, 6 rushing attempts for 10 yards. Wide receiver, defensive back Joshua Neal, 2 receptions, 31 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Anthony McCrew, 4 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Jordan Smith, 2 receptions, 20 yards, and a touchdown. Best defense performance, defensive back Jonathan Taylor, 4 tackles, interception for the Barrels. For the Beaumont Renegades, quarterback Cameron Peters, uh, 5 out of 14, 81 yards, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions, 2 attempts for 29 yards. Offensive line fullback Alexinsa Tapa, 4 attempts, 7 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Zari Davis, 1 reception, 18 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance, defensive back Trey Taylor, 2 tackles, an attack, and interception. And one thing I forgot about the Kokomania game, it's either the first or second score, the quarterback actually threw the ball against the net. It fell, then it hit the net, reflected off the, and the uh, receiver was able to catch it for a touchdown. That was great to see. It hasn't happened in a while, but glad to see you there. Now, the standings for AF1 right now. Nashville Cats clinched the number 1 seed for no matter what is home in Nashville. Albany Firebirds are number 2 at 9-3. Minnesota Monsters at 7-4. Kentucky Barrels, or formerly known as the Kentucky Barrels, are 7-5. Michigan Arsenal at 5-6, and then Washington Wolfpack are 5-7, and Beaumont Renegades are 4-7. Oceanside just don't. They're probably the odd team out there as a, because I think it's going to be Minnesota, Kentucky, but at Minnesota, or I don't know, Minnesota. It's going to be weird how they do the seeding here, because if I recall how it goes, I think it's only the six. It's going to be because Beaumont and Oceanside are out as of right now, but Beaumont, I think, has another game, and we'll see if Washington will stay in the playoffs. Or there was some confusion too that there might be a game that didn't count, so they need clarification, because it's still, like I said, with the AF1, it's confusing the heck. Final thing is, this was the final week of championship for the for the American Arena League, and it's interesting how a few years ago with the reforming of the AAL, because they brought back the AAL 2, and then they also had the championship game too. The Peach State Cats beat the Still City Stampede 44-12. So congratulations for the Peach State Cats. Uh, the American Arena League actually had like a press conference with the commissioner, and they announced a new team that was coming. They had now added a second Texas team to go with the Texas Wild Hogs, and it's actually a team we actually talking about when me and Zach were talking about how the NAL was talking about, like, there were rumors that the Frisco Steam were coming to the NAL, and the NAL say squashed that, something about finances, and even the Steam responded like, how do you know our finances? We never talked to you. It turns out the Frisco Steam, or should I say now the North Texas Steam, are joining the AAL next year as the 4 expansion teams. So now that's the Montgomery City Catfish, the North Texas Steam, the Texas Hogs, and then oh yeah, the Ohio Legends. So that there goes, because the Legends are actually the only team that have been promoted from the AAL2. Then the other 3 are just expansion franchises from outside the league. So good to see there. And then when it comes to AAL Championship, as I said before, very great game. And then, unfortunately for Willie Myers, even though it was held at home for them, they lost into their home crowd, and the Columbus Lions beat the Willie Miners 49-46. So very good game there, and it just, like, congratulations. And I'm actually looking forward to the AAL to in the future, and they seem to be doing it right. So it's kind of interesting. And if I do have, there's a chance I'll have a guest next week. It's something I'm going to talk to him about. So we'll see how that goes here. So let's exit that. So good job on the AL for 2026. Can't wait for 2027. All right, next we got the Arena League here. And the Arena League goes as follows here. The Iowa Woo beat the St. Joseph Goats 61-39. Arkansas Diamonds did a defensive deal with the Memphis Hound Dog 32-6, which is kind of interesting there. The Nebraska Seeds beat the Eau Claire Axemen 52-28. And then also the Monroe Greenheads beat the Ozark Lungers 56-50. Once again, I wish I was able to do stats, but they don't do that anymore for some reason this year. Right now, the standings goes as follows here. The North Division, the Nebraska, the Seeds, the sole undefeated team, is 6-0. The St. Joseph Goats is 4-2. The Iowa Woo are 2-4. The Eau Claire Axemen, the winless team of the league, at 0-6. So right now, if there were playoffs, it would be Nebraska and St. Joseph in that right now in the North. And I don't know if Iowa can catch up with only 2 more weeks left. It's possible, but I don't know. St. Joe is doing pretty good there. Now, the South Division is a little bit more tricky when it comes to the 2 seed. Right now, the Arkansas Diamonds have the 1st seed at 5-1. And Memphis and Monroe, thankfully to Monroe's victory, they are neck and neck. And going to be depending on how that goes, and I'll take a look at the schedules here too because it's going to be close on how that's going to go for playoff scenarios here. Monroe and Memphis are tied at 3-3, but Memphis got the 2 seed as right now, and the Ozark Lunkers are at 1-5. Boy, how has that team fallen? That's too bad there. Then we're going to the International Arena League, a league that's somehow still trying. I'm amazed by this. They're still going, and I just don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to end after this year? Heck, even that all the games were in Vegas, and the commissioner Dan Lust was there during like commentating a few of the games too. So it's just going to be interesting. What are they going to do next year? It's just like what are you going to do? Are you going to merge with another league? You're going to end operations, do some retooling? We don't know what they're going to do. It's quite interesting. And also the thing about the Arizona Jugs not playing Mullen Arena again, looks like that is false because they're playing this weekend. So I don't know what. Apparently there was a lot of mustard to that and turned out to be a lot of nothing. So Arizona Juggernauts are still active and still playing at Mullen Arena. So we'll see what goes on here. As the Pennsylvania Benjamins beat Cincinnati Slinger as a 43-29, and the Pennsylvania needed that. European Stars were close, but the Juggernauts beat them 52-50. And then the Utah Great Eights beat the Rockers at their home stadium 75-40. And the standings for the International League right now are Rockers, and the championship is going to be in Vegas, are 2-7. Then it's the European Stars at 5 at 2-5. The Pennsylvania Benjamins are at number 4 seed at 4-5. The Juggernauts 6-4. The 3 seed, the 2 seed, Cincinnati Slingers 7-3, and Utah Grades at 8-3. So that's right now the top three are pretty much set, but the Benjamins and the Eurostars for the 4 seed, and even I'll put even the Rockers in there too, is still up for grabs. So that's going to be interesting there, even though they're not doing too well. But as I said before, they're still going. All their games are on YouTube, and 2 of the games are in Mullet, and 1 is in Cincinnati. So yeah, they're still playing. So that's interesting. All right, now we get to now the excuse me, because now the games are going to start shrinking every week now because now the AAL is done, and the games are going to start shrinking here for the Indoor Football League, and they start this week. Actually, there's only 5 games this week, Saturday and Sunday. All the games are Saturday and Sunday this week. First game for week 19 of the Indoor Football League, Iowa Barnstormers for Jacksonville Sharks at 7 o'clock Eastern on Yahoo. Jacksonville should win this game, and they need to win this for good seeding within the playoffs. Quad City Steamers versus the Tulsa Oilers. Oh, this is one that I would put as the game of the week because this is for playoff seeding solely. Very solely here. New Mexico and the Quad City and Tulsa game is on the overnight network at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. New Mexico Chupacabras versus San Diego Strike Force at 10 o'clock Eastern. I mean, on the overnight app. That's going to be a slaughter. Hopefully, San Diego Strike Force beat them on the overnight app there. Then the Arizona Rattlers versus San Antonio Gunslingers, which I believe wasn't there. Yeah, that should be a no, that ain't a rematch. Sorry, my fault. The Arizona Rattlers should beat the San Antonio Gunslingers on Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern on Yahoo. And then ending on the Yahoo Sports Network doubleheader, the Northern Arizona Wranglers versus the Tuscan Sugar Skulls. Tuscan needs to win this just to still be alive for playoffs' sake. So, yeah, Tuscan needs to win this since Northern Arizona, they have nothing to lose. They're already eliminated. AF1, the Oceanside Stealth versus the Michigan Arsenal. They're at 5 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to go with Michigan. And then the Baymont Renegades versus Minnesota Monsters. And this is for basically playoff seeding for the last week. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota on this one. The Arena League, all the games on Saturday at 7:05 on YouTube. The Arkansas Diamonds versus the Ozark Lunkers, going with the Diamonds. Memphis Hound Dogs versus Monroe Greenheads. Perfect game for, like I said, for playoff seeding. So I'm actually going to go with the Greenheads on that one. The Eau Claire Axemen versus the Iowa Woo for the lower seats there. The Woo should beat the Axemen on here. Then the St. Joseph Goats versus Nebraska Seeds. Going to be a good game, but I'm going to go with the Siege on that one. And then for the International Arena League Week 14, Pennsylvania Bandit versus Utah Grade 8s at 2:30 Pacific Time at Mullet. I'm gonna go with the. I'll go with the Benjamins. Then the Las Vegas Rockers versus the Arizona Juggernauts at 6:30 Pacific. I'll choose them at home with the Arizona Juggernauts. And then finally, Sunday, European Stars versus Cincinnati Slingers at 6:30 Eastern in Cincinnati. I am gonna go with the Cincinnati Slingers. That'll do it for this week's edition of Arena Frontier here on Gateway Sports. Planning to have a guest next week, especially since at that time the playoff picture will kind of be almost complete. It'll be complete for Arena Football 1, but it'll be technically kind of maybe about complete for the Indoor Football League. The Arena League, close to the International Arena League, who knows? And maybe some more information because, dear Lord, the thing with the Arena Football 1, that needs to get fixed tremendously. So, that'll do it for this edition of Arena Frontier. See you all next week, and hopefully with a guest. See you all next week.